Defense News is proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, a look at the military's COVID-19 vaccination rates and why some service members are turning it down. We head to San Diego for a first in the Marine Corps. From the Middle East, we have on-the-ground coverage of the IDEX Defense Exhibition and an interview with the Navy's Chief Data Officer. Plus, is the Air Force in the market for a new fighter? We take a look. With the latest news and analysis from the Pentagon to the platoon, this is Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. We have an absolutely packed show this week, so let's dive right in. First up, vaccines are rolling out for COVID-19, but some in the services are turning them down. The Military Times team digs into what's going on.
Marines, what you need to know is the vaccine is safe.
I strongly urge you to protect yourself, your shipmates, and your family by getting the vaccine.
Join the fight. Get vaccinated.
Please get your COVID-19 vaccination as soon as you can.
So the military has launched a sort of marketing campaign to help convince troops to get vaccinated for COVID-19 because it is a voluntary vaccine.
We're encouraging everybody who's presented the opportunity to take it.
Some of these materials they've put out include videos, social media campaigns, Facebook, Twitter with senior leadership, getting vaccinated and talking about their experience, but also encouraging service members to do the research, go to the CDC's website, talk to their doctors, and make the best decision for them.
We got a COVID vaccine.
A lot of people have been asking, why is this a voluntary vaccine? Because they say, you know, when I was in uniform, I had to do all sorts of vaccines and there was no option. So the reason for this is that the COVID-19 vaccine, the two that are being administered right now, are being used under an emergency use authorization from the FDA, which means they are technically still experimental, though they have been through trials and they have been deemed safe and effective. But because they are under this emergency use authorization, they legally, federally, cannot be mandated, including for service members.
In the DoD, for now, COVID vaccine is voluntary.
The services have vaccinated about 400,000 troops at this point. Last week during a hearing, some senior Pentagon officials brought those numbers to lawmakers and explained to them the numbers that they have been able to vaccinate. And they also brought with them the other burning question, which is, because it's voluntary, how many people are turning it down?
Do you have a handle, General Tolliver, as what percentage of the service members have declined?
And so, Ranking Member, I think our initial look, and this is of course very early data, is acceptance rates are somewhere in the 2/3 territory, and of course it varies by different groups.
Unfortunately for the military, this COVID-19 vaccine is coming online sort of at the height of this anti-vaccination movement in the US. And so a lot of the concerns that have been expressed about getting the vaccine are the same that you would see for any vaccine. These concerns that float around on social media, on the internet. And of course, there's no evidence for any of these things. And the elements of the COVID-19 vaccine have been thoroughly tested and have also been around for a while.
Bottom line, the FDA has evaluated the vaccine as safe, but it will remain voluntary until official FDA approval.
So with a third of the joint force basically refusing the vaccine so far, according to Pentagon leaders, we've been very curious to hear from service members directly about why or why not they're opting to get the vaccine when their time is called. We've heard from service members across all the branches of all ranks and ages, and their answers are very illuminating. One thing we hear from a lot of junior service members is they feel like COVID isn't a big health risk to them personally, and they've yet to see any kind of loosening of restrictions coming with the vaccine. The thought among some seems to be, why would I get this vaccine if it's not going to, ease the restrictions I've been living under for most of the past year? We've heard from other service members who are concerned about how quickly the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines came to market, and they feel like the technology is unproven, even though the mRNA concept and process behind these vaccines has been in the work for some years. One service member told us because the vaccine is voluntary, they're worried that the VA wouldn't cover any claims connected to the vaccine, should problems, pop up down the road. No health experts or scientists have indicated that those problems are likely, but it's one concern we're hearing about. A lot of the other younger service members just feel like the mortality rate isn't high enough in their age bracket to warrant them getting the vaccine. You see all the services really trying to counter that thought process in their social media messaging, basically saying you're getting this vaccine not only for yourself, but for your battle buddy, for your shipmate, for your family, for your parents. We all kind of protect each other that way. But that is another message we're hearing a lot of is, I'm 23, why should I get this?
So just like all the other services, the Army has been trying to encourage soldiers to take the COVID-19 vaccines. This week, they held a town hall in order to help encourage soldiers and dispel some myths and rumors around the vaccine, as well as just advocate for the general safety and efficacy of taking it.
Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this important town hall, discussing why it's important to take the COVID-19 vaccine.
One constant theme is that a lot of the soldiers who are up and slated for vaccination actually aren't, within at-risk demographics. So the Army's really trying to encourage these soldiers to still step up to the plate and take the vaccine, because although they aren't a member of the vulnerable population, they are people who are still within the transmission chain, and they can still give it to others who are more vulnerable.
Do your part to protect yourselves, your family, and friends, and to remain combat ready.
So going forward throughout the rest of the year with this vaccination effort, it seems like the hope is through enough education, enough incentive, and maybe just through the experience of, service members seeing their fellow service members get vaccinated and have no, at least short-term effects, that might convince people that the vaccine is the right move for them.
And finally, a new milestone in San Diego as the Marine Corps makes efforts to further gender integrate. For the first time ever, women recruits are being trained on the West Coast in co-ed companies. Military Times correspondent Dustin Jones has more.
Since 1948, Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego has been in the business of turning men into Marines. But today, the base is writing a new chapter, welcoming the first women to set foot on the yellow footprints.
Get on my yellow footprint! Aye, sir! Hurry up, get on the bus! Get on the bus! Are you feeling it?
Facing the gauntlet thousands of Marines have gone through before them, the first women stepped off the bus at the Corps' West Coast Recruit Depot for the first time on February 9th.
You will live, eat, sleep, and train as a team.
Historically, women have always done their initial training at Parris Island, South Carolina. But as the Corps starts to fully gender integrate training at the direction of Congress, there will now be a first generation of women Hollywood Marines.
Let's go, sir, right now! Let's go! Yes, ma'am! Yes, ma'am! Go, hurry up! Yes, sir!
The women will comprise a single platoon training alongside 5 all-male platoons, a style of training that Parris Island completed at least 9 times since January 2019. History was already made here late last year when the first 3 women graduated from San Diego's drill instructor course. Officials at the Recruit Depot talked about what the arrival of women means for the San Diego base.
My name is Lieutenant Colonel Anthony BARILETTI. I'm the commanding officer of the 3rd Recruit Training Battalion here at MCRD San Diego. Women are training here at MCRD San Diego principally because it provides options and flexibility at the service level in terms of locations where we could train both genders. It allows us to eliminate gender biases across the service, but more importantly, it makes a more lethal Marine.
This is a big thing, so they're probably honestly gonna get it a little harder, but it's history. Before it was just females against females. Now I'm a female proving myself against a male, and I'm gonna do it the best way I can.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. We're gonna all go that way. Start moving now.
My name is Leslie ZAVALETA. I am from Tyler, Texas, and I am 18 years old. I'm doing this not only to prove other people wrong, but mainly for myself. It's a great accomplishment to be able to graduate from MCRD San Diego or MCRD Pierce Island. It's really a big accomplishment. At least that's the way I see it. It is a hard branch, and it's difficult in general. And some people believe that women can't do it, and I'm here to prove everybody wrong. Women can do it. I feel like all these women that are here as well with me, they're gonna push themselves more than they've pushed themselves before, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Looking at the guys and saying, hey, I can do that too.
Extra small, extra short.
Received, aye, sir.
Thank you, guys, sir. Aye, sir. Let's go, strap.
Hey, bring it straight left. Go back. Aye, ma'am.
But today is just day one for these recruits. Their journey to becoming a Marine will stretch the next 13 weeks. If they have what it takes, in the end, they will earn the title United States Marine.
And that's it from the military this week. When we come back, an update from the IDEX Defense Conference. And is the Air Force looking for a new fighter? We'll check it out.
The International Defense Exhibition, better known as IDEX, just wrapped up in Abu Dhabi, and despite a pandemic that has halted in-person events in the past year, this one was in fact live. In its first day, the United Arab Emirates announced a $1.36 billion set of local and foreign arms deals, which was more than last year, even with an economy affected by the pandemic. Defense News Middle East correspondent Agnes Al-Helu was there, and I caught up with her to hear more about the show. Agnes, you're the first reporter covering an event for our team here at IDEX in Abu Dhabi. This is the big show. What's it like this year?
Well, IDEX is IDEX this year or any other year. The same number of companies and maybe also major announcements have been made during the show. Maybe not as crowded as it used to be in the earlier versions. However, there are many announcements. Mainly, most of them are about unmanned systems. Some of them are about land vehicles.
The new presidential administration in the United States has indicated fewer sales between us and the Middle East. How did that affect the show?
Very much, tremendously, if we can say. Speaking about this shortly, when you look at the officials and the official delegations, you find most of them from the Gulf countries heading towards the Russian side, also the Chinese side. Very few are heading towards the American booths. And I have heard many local officials, industrial sources in particular, saying that this is due to the embargo and the halt of the sales from the new administration. And I've also heard that they will look at how to reinitiate their sales from the East. This means Russia and China, because they have been ongoing already. From the UAE has already the unmanned systems. It has already the Panzer from Russia. So they have to reinitiate it.
The buyers in the Middle East see the United States as only one supplier. There's obviously a lot of motivation on the Chinese side and on the Russian side to provide some of these systems and make some of that money.
Yes, and more important about this point is that they are running away from monopoly. So they do not buy their arms from one seller or from one country. They are trying just to diverse the sources, and this is what Egypt had done. And when you go, and if you were here and just looked at IDEX, you would see that Egypt is just beside Egyptian booth and stand is just beside the Russian one, because Egypt has many Russian military systems in particular.
And anybody who goes to these shows wants to see the toys. Can you tell us a little bit about the systems that you saw at this show this year?
Yes, of course. The heading or the title of this show this year is Autonomy and Artificial Intelligence. Speaking about Edge, the conglomerate, the UAE conglomerate, it is having the largest number of announcements here. It has launched or it has unveiled its unmanned loitering munitions, and it is a family of 4 UAVs. They can be armed and they can target directly the threat to protect the land troops and also the land vehicles.
The products are developed in-house completely by ADASI, protect and the ground troops from any threats and dangers.
Speaking about also Nimr has changed its Ashban 4x4 wheeled vehicle into an unmanned vehicle.
Behind me here is the Ashban 4x4 Mark II. The Mark II vehicles marks a real great evolution for our platforms. We are offering higher levels of protection, higher levels of mobility, higher payload, while we are trying to keep the commercial offering at the same price or even lower.
When you have soldiers inside this manned vehicle and they go through an area where there is threat, they can get out of the vehicle and they can ride it autonomously.
One interesting item was in the Russian booth is an existing assault rifle, the AK-19, made with NATO rounds, the 5.56 round. Why would they even do that?
Well, this is a question I asked them, honestly. Why would they do it? And especially, why would they bring it to a non-NATO country for the first time outside Russia? And they said that they are bringing it to IDEX because the Middle East countries are asking for this caliber in particular, for the 5.56 round NATO round. So this is why they brought it here. And because they also value IDEX, so they got it for the first time outside Russia to IDEX in particular.
Lots to see there. Agnes, thank you so much and stay safe.
Thank you.
Make sure to head over to defensenews.com to see Agnes's full IDEX coverage. Lots of stories and more interviews with newsmakers in the region. And for now, defense industry headlines. The U.S. Air Force could be in the market for a brand new advanced 4th generation fighter jet as it looks to replace its oldest F-16s. That's according to Air Force Chief of Staff General Charles C.Q. Brown. Brown told Defense News that the Air Force has started a study that will describe its preferred mix of fighters and other tactical aircraft that will be used to help build the fiscal 2023 budget. That result could include a brand new fighter with capabilities that fall somewhere in between the 1970s era F-16 and stealthy 5th generation fighters like the F-22 and F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. In January, former Air Force Acquisitions Chief Will Roper disclosed that the service's ongoing study will also weigh whether to buy new build F-16s from Lockheed Martin. But Brown said he is still yet to be convinced that the F-16 is the right option. And that's it in the defense world. Up next, personal finance expert Jeanette Mack gives service members tips on how to avoid tax season scams. And later, a chat with the Navy's data chief.
On this edition of Money Minute, Navy Federal Credit Union personal finance expert Jeanette Mack gives her advice for how to avoid scams during tax season.
There's no better welcome to the new year than your long-awaited tax refund. With so many expecting a deposit of cash, it's no wonder that during this time, tax scams also tend to spike. Phishing, identity theft, and perhaps even a dishonest tax preparer are all things you need to protect yourself against. Keep a lookout for unusual activity like folks contacting you, posing as the IRS. The IRS will never contact you over the phone, email, text, or through social media. So this is definitely a scam. Don't respond or click on any links. Instead, visit irs.gov and report it. And if you're hiring someone to help prepare your taxes, make sure they're qualified and have a good reputation. Check out the tax preparer directory on irs.gov to find a tax preparer with bona fide credentials. And do file your taxes as early as possible. That way, there's less of a chance for scammers to try and file in your name. If you file online, use a secure internet connection to protect your personal information. Staying on top of all the ways fraudsters try to take your identity and your money will get you through tax season and onto enjoying your tax refund safely.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. To get more of our coverage, be sure to check out our websites at Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps Times.com and DefenseNews.com. To get a list of our top stories every morning in your inbox, subscribe to our Early Bird Brief. And make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And when we come back, we'll hear from one of the Navy's top information experts on how the service handles a massive amount of data. If there's one thing that fuels a modern military force that you don't often think about, it's data. How the services manage everything from payrolls to battlefield communications is part of the equation. Recently, C4ISRNet's Andrew Eversden sat down with the Navy's Chief of Data to find out how the military manages information. Here's part of that conversation.
When you talk about joint warfighting, you need common data standards between the services, but you also have to have, you're also balancing that effort with common data standards, just so Navy components can talk to each other. I guess, how do you balance that?
It comes back to those key questions, right? So what we're doing is we use the key questions to identify the priority data sets, right? And those priority data sets are driven by systems, because that's what we have in the IT environment, and those systems exchange information. So once you have a question, you can prioritize which questions are more important than other questions. That leads you to the data that is, notionally speaking, more important than other data, right? Which will lead us to the systems that have the data and the exchanges between the systems, right? And what we're trying to do right now is as a matter of fact, it's not something that we've really dug into over the last 2 years yet, but we're doing it right now, which is targeting those information exchanges, right? In some cases, what you see is an operator will be using a tool. They will be looking at a screen. They will pick up the phone, or they will send a chat message to the operator that's looking at a different screen, and they would exchange information, with a chat message or a phone call. And then that would trigger some other additional step in the workflow. So those are the type of exchanges that we want to target. Wouldn't it be nice if the operator, rather than picking up a phone, can just press a button and say, hey, send my compadre over there the position of this target or this particular piece of intelligence or whatever we're looking for. And then that payload is standardized, right? And we can create, and again, I mentioned this this data fabric, right? We create this mesh of producers and consumers, right? That is not defined in advance of who gets to produce and who gets to consume. Instead, what we're doing is we're publishing data events, right? And so anyone who could potentially be interested in this event can subscribe to receive the event, right? In real time, right? And so that's vastly different than how we do it today, where the systems like our planes beam telemetry down to the ship, right? It only works with that plane and that ship, right? In the standards that we've established in advance, well in advance, in this case, decades, right? If you're talking about Link 16 or something like that, right? So wouldn't it be nice if we, notionally speaking, again, acknowledging we're in a contested environment where the adversaries have a vote here, right? But we publish data events and the subscribers can receive it. And so rather than, kind of a point-to-point communication, we have this much more resilient, survivable, diverse mesh, right, that allows this intercommunication. So if a unit is encumbered in some way, either they lose communications or they're being targeted or they're incoming fires, right, then the unit next to them can get the same information without having to re-wicker the IT to support the operations.
For more on that story, head to c4isrnet.com. And that's all we have time for this week. Please visit us on militarytimes.com and defensenews.com for more coverage. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.